Hello, welcome back to Helldivers 2 modeling game object. Right, this is where we left off in our previous installment, and we have our 3 pieces. So let's now put this together and make a complete part. As always, make a backup. I probably did that already, but I'm going to do it again. And we're going to just add the whole piece first. So we want it to be there, 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 and there, and so on. So to do that, first of all, we really go as far as that. And on this model, it's as far as that point there. So we don't need these parts here now. So let's delete all of them. Let's click that. If you hold down Control and click the last one here, it will find the shortest path and make a selection like that. So I'm going to do that. Let's just go Shift click that and then hold down Control and click there. We now have every other component. Let's delete those faces. Yay! Let's turn up our modifiers so we can see what we're doing here. And that one needs a mirror modifier. So let's tab into edit mode. And we need to just tidy this part here up now. So let's do that with the knife tool. Let's have a think. Yeah, let's do it with the knife tool and click there like that. Right click to continue cutting, and then when you're ready, right click and enter. Back to front view, wireframe, select these vertices and delete them. Cool, I'm going to use my add-on to add the mirror modifier and put that above the subdiv. Lovely, we now have this. Let's put that back to the world origin because that's where this is placed. Might as well. Let's put that to 0. That sits nicely in that space there. Let's just confirm. Yeah, that looks good. Is that object there? Let's Shift D, R45. There we go. So we did that in 2 steps. So now we can press Shift R to repeat that like that. And we have our lovely shape all around with our mirror modifier, of course. Okay. But for this example, we don't need to have all of these modifiers actually on all of these assets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these. Let's join them together. Do Control J. I don't think it's going to apply the modifiers, is it? No, because we've got one modifier set now. You can see like that, and there's our subdiv. All of those. Cool. So now we've got that. Let's turn these off again. And this one, we have them turned off here as well, the modifiers. We're going to select these whole parts first, and then Shift click that one and do Control J to join them. Now it's one object. If we turn our mirror modifier on, then add subdiv, you get that. The only thing we need to watch out for now is because we joined these 2 objects together and they were overlapping here in these regions, boundaries, we may have overlapping vertices. So if I click on one, just click there, then press G to move, you can see we have a hole, the separate components still. So we need to merge all these vertices together. The quick way to do that is press A to select everything. And in my toolkit, I have merge by distance there because it's something that I use quite frequently. So I put that in the add-on. If you haven't got the add-on, you can press M for merge by distance. At the bottom of your screen, you should see how many vertices it removed. For me, it was 176. So if I go back here now and press G on that one there, that is now one complete piece. We can check that somewhere else as well. Let's select that one. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, we have a problem there. I didn't spot that. Yeah, because we had this edge loop here. These don't connect to anything. Now we could just do it with a knife and cut through and join them, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to select this, select that one there, and press M, merge at last. And I'm going to do that again, Shift R, like that. Now we have one in the middle there. We can just put that anywhere really. Let's put that there as well, merge at last. Let's see how that behaves now. If we turn these on. Yep, that looks good. So you can see we have a problem there with the subdiv on. So we're going to select these. That one last. M, merge at last. Do the same there, Shift R. Just quickly go through and do all of these. I think we're done. Oh, nearly. We've missed a bit. What's missing? Ah, yes, this vertex here needs to be snapped. But instead of snapping it there, like that, which would fix that problem, I'm going to undo that. I'm actually going to add an edge loop there. There. So Control R, right click to leave it in the middle. That connects up nicely and has our topology flowing nicely across the model. And that's it. And just to make sure, select everything, merge by distance, and remove 16. And that would be the ones that you have here going around. Excellent. And that's looking perfect now. Now we need to do is just add these and put them on alternating sections. So we need 1, 2, 3 of these, basically. And now we can place that one back to 0. And we have that there. But before we do anything else, let's copy this object. Let's duplicate that with, let's do Shift D for this one. Yeah, let's do Shift D, right click to leave it there. Let's move it up. Oops, I'm playing the animation again. Let's move that up. So maybe a little bit smaller. Like that. Okay. You can see there the height we've given it is 0.42258. For me, that might be different for you depending on your scale. So if we duplicate this one now, Shift D, right click to leave it there and bring it down. If I leave it there, now we can eyeball this and say, okay, that's roughly there. But you can see here, if I click this number here, it's 4228, 42258. This one is 42954. But we know that the world origin is in the middle. So if that's a positive 0.42258, this one must be a negative value of the same number. So I'm going to copy that, press Ctrl C over that, go over here, paste it, and now just put the minus to drop it down there. That's exactly in the same position now. So going back to this, the top part is the part that has the 2 rivets on it. So that's this piece here. So we can move that into the same position, so we can put the same value there, like that. Okay. Now these are aligned, these circles, the whole parts, but these ones are aligned along these edges here, these facets here. So as you saw from my terrible maths earlier, we're going to rotate this from the top like that. If I do that roughly, you can see we've got 22.5. Oh, that was good. Not almost to 22.5. Let's do 22.5. Perfect. So like before, we want to repeat this all the way around 8 times again, like before. So I'm going to do Shift D, R, 45, Enter. And with that operation done, we can press Shift R to repeat it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That looks great, if I do say so myself. Right, this one needs to be in the middle. So we can put that back to 0. And that should be in the middle, which it is. All we need to do is rotate that on the Z by the same value, 22.5. So I'm going to do that from this angle. It doesn't have to be from the top. So from this angle, you again, thinking about the macro mindset process or technique, we want to do Shift D. No, first we rotate it 22.5. So RZ 22.5. There we go. Now we can do all the other operations. So to do that, I'm going to do Shift D, RZ 45, Enter, and then Shift R, duplicate that. So Shift R, There it goes. One more. Awesome. Very quick. And this one, of course, belongs at the bottom as it does at the top. So that's a straightforward case of copying that. So Shift D. Oops. Okay, let's leave it there and delete that. Obviously, when we duplicated them, they're all separate objects. So I may as well just put these into one object. So I'm going to select them all by holding down Shift. You could keep them separate, but I'm not going to because it makes this list over here really long. But for this purpose, I'm just going to join them all together. So I press Ctrl J. Now we have one piece like that. We can duplicate this and then put the minus value here. So duplicate the object, leave it there, and then just change that to a minus figure to flip it to the bottom side. Let's connect these together as well. So with those selected, let's do Ctrl J. And you can see we have the same there. In fact, we've got the mirror modifier still applied on this one. So you probably don't need that anymore. We can apply that. Do the same for this one as well. Let's save first. Apply the mirror modifier. So all we're left with now is the subdiv modifier for all of these pieces. Let's just make sure that's right. Yeah. And this one also has the mirror modifier, as does this one and that one there. So let's apply that as well. We can always put it back if we need to. And let's head over to making these circular, these cylinders that part extrude from these holes, like these parts here. So the middle part, as you can see, the middle part here are literally just straight and just rotated on the Z-axis. These ones are slightly tilted. Don't know why, just for look, I guess. So we're going to have to give that a slight rotation. I don't know what the angle is. It could be 5%, 10%, but we'll just do it by eye and put it in those holes. Okay, so let's make these cylinders. From the front view, we can see our hole. We can see how big that is. And what we're going to do is add a cylinder. Zoom out a little bit. There it is. Still 16 sides from the previous time we made it. So maybe we should make that, let's keep it 16 sides actually. That's pretty good. But the radius is way too big. Let's make that smaller. Maybe this helps. Turn that on. And go to the front view. It's still too big. Let's bring that down. Just inside that up to that hole there, as you can see. The depth doesn't really matter that much, but maybe make it 0.2. Like that. Okay. Let's go to the top view. Let's bring that to the front there. So we can see it near that hole. If I turn X-ray off, there's our cylinder. Again, if you haven't got the add-on, no worries, just hit Shift A and add a mesh cylinder. So all we need to do now is, firstly, we don't need the bottom face. Let's get rid of that. So select that and press Delete Faces. Let's select this face. In fact, no, let's go to Edge Mode. Alt click on this top edge loop and Control B to bevel and give it some support loops. Not too small, not too big. And then I'm also going to add an inset here just to hold the inside part there. I'm going to delete that and switch to Edge Mode and select, it's still Edge Mode. Select this edge loop and go to Face, Grid Fill. Okay. And then once we've done that, we can do Shade Smooth. And that's all we pretty much need to do with that. And you could add a subdiv modifier to that. Just one level, I think, is enough. If we turn wireframe on, you can see that's how many polygons we're now getting by adding this one level. I think 2 a little bit overkill. Let's leave it at 1 and then turn on optimal display again. The other thing I will do is, if I turn that off, I'm going to add the edit mode, of course, with that object selected. Control R, click and add a loop cut and add it just below there. Maybe somewhere there. So now when we do this subdivision and then turn off the wireframe, we get a more consistent shading down the side. That's it. That's pretty much done. What do we call these things? What did I call it last time? I called them, I'll put them into little groups here. I called it thing. I don't know what it is. Let's call it thing then. Oh, thimbles. Is that how you spell thimble? Let's do thimble. That makes more sense. Now, we want to put this inside the hole there. Like before, save our file, Shift D to duplicate, and then drag that into backups. So let's go to the side view now. Let's rotate this 90 degrees. So you can do R90, and it's probably rotated the wrong way, which it has. So let's change that here to 270 or -90. Whoops. Why did it do that? Orientation view, global. Oh, look at that. Should be on the Y. No, X. Yes. We got them in the end. So there's our thimble. It's very long at the moment, so I'm actually going to make it shorter. So let's isolate that. And I'm going to select this edge loop here. And let's just pull it back. Something like that. Okay, cool. Now what we need to do is move that inside. Let's go right inside here and see how far it goes. So we don't want it to go through that. So you can see there. And we can actually use vertex snapping. So if I click on the green one to lock it to that axis and then hold down Control key, I can now move my mouse cursor somewhere over here and snap right there. That's perfect. Why don't we isolate these two pieces like that, so we can see what we're doing. Just bring that into view. Oops. Just bring it into view there with the period key on the numpad. Bring it into focus, and then go to the top view. So 7. But before we do that, let's apply the rotation as well. Let's do that. Apply rotation. Again, if you don't have the add-on, very simply click Control A and select Apply Rotation. Anyway, so we've got that. Let's go to the top view and do, remember we want to rotate 45 degrees, right? So Shift D, R45. Oh, no, that's not going to work because notice our pivot point is here. We want it to rotate here. So I'm actually going to delete that because we've copied it. So I'm going to select that again. Now we can either move the pivot point to that origin point there, to the 3D cursor, or we can leave it there and change the transform pivot point to 3D cursor. And now we're actually rotating around the 3D cursor. So let's do that. And Shift D, R45, enter. Let's do Shift D again, R45, enter. And without moving the orientation of the camera or our viewpoint, Shift R. There we go. So now we have these nicely done. Remember, they're all separate objects. Okay. Let's bring back all of our scene. Let's save our file. So what we're going to do, go to the front view. Let's click on this one here. In fact, let's select all of these. And we want to move them, or copy them and move them here, right? What I'm going to do is snap it to this. When I move it vertically, I want to snap it using vertex snapping to that vertex there in the Z-axis only. Sounds maybe more complicated than it is. So again, I'm going to select all of the thimbles and let's go to front view, Shift D, G to grab, Z, and then hold down the Control key and snap it to there. But it did snap to that point there. But if you check here, it snaps it with the closest vertex in mind. We want it to be at the center, either the closest relative to the object you've selected, basically. So the closest vertex is here. That's the one. That's where it's snapped to. We want it to be the center of our selection, which is here. Let's put it on medium point because it's there. If I do that now and hold down Control and snap it to there. There we go. So going back to our previous file, remember I said these are slightly tilted outward and then these ones are slightly tilted downwards. So let's see how we can do that. At the moment they're all facing the same direction. So let's do these ones here. Now if we took this one, you can see, let's just take a second to look at the orientation of our axes here. Now we know from this that the Z is up and down, the Y is in and out, and the X is left and right. Okay, and that's going to be the same for all of these if you leave it on global. But we don't want it on global, we want local. So that's correct. Now you can see this is the local axis of the object, not the world. So with that, we can figure out which angle or which axis to rotate these cylinders on. So we switch to the rotate tool there, and we get the widget. We're going to rotate it on the X like this, and undo that. Ideally, you want to rotate it from the back, but for this purpose, I'm just going to rotate it from the middle. Then we can move them up and down just to make sure it doesn't clip through the body of the component here. So let's just let's go to front view and click on the X, and then let's hold down Control to get 5-degree increments. And that gives us -10 in that axis. And the value of your rotation will appear in the top left corner. So if I do that, you can see in the top left corner the rotation value. Just undo that. So we've rotated this on the X local axis by 10 degrees, -10 degrees. So you want to do that for all of these. And if you don't want to do it this way, now that we've done one, you can see we've got -10 there in the X rotation. You can copy that, go back to our select tool, and simply paste that in the X, like so. And I believe if you select more than one, like this, so all the ones that we haven't rotated, and if we enter -10 there, if I press enter, that's only going to rotate one of them. But if I hold down the Alt key as I press enter, and then press enter, whilst holding down the Alt key, it will apply that rotation to all of them. So let's try that. So with that entered there, press the Alt key and then enter. And you can see it rotated every single object by the same value. Really cool little tip that. And that applies to everything from things like modifiers to all sorts of things. So now we've done that, we can pretty much apply these. Let's just make sure it's not going through and clipping anywhere. Go to the front view, turn on X-ray. Let me zoom in here, you can see there's the bottom edge of our hole. There's a hole here. Oops, let's go to annotate. There's a hole there. And this is where the gap is, above and below. So this is a slightly smaller gap than the one at the top, because it's rotated counterclockwise. So if you like, you can actually just select all of these, which we may as well do it properly. You don't really notice it, but you know, attention to detail is good. So with all those selected, let's go back to the front view again. And I'm going to turn on X-ray. Oh, and it crashed. This is why we save our files. Let's figure out where I saved it. So I'm going to fire up Blender and see the last time how much work we lost. Real world example, guys. So here it is there. Let's click that. Load that file. And yeah, that looks pretty good. The other thing we've lost is the rotation, but we now know how to do it. It's -10 in the X, right? Please do save your file every time you do something that's important. You don't want to keep repeating it basically in case it crashes. So that's done. In fact, I won't bother moving them up and down a bit. Let's leave it like that for now. Feel free to move them up a touch if you want. So with that done, I'm going to select them all again. So I deselected them. Live and learn. And then I'm going to join them all together. So Control J. We now have one thimble group. We might as well join these now. We don't need these to be separate anymore. You could keep them as individual objects. No problem. Let's do Control J. So we've got one object there, one object there. And like before, we can simply copy this and flip it or rotate it. So copy it and then rotate it 180 degrees and it will point downwards. So let's do that. So that's selected. Let's use our pivot point here, the world origin, which is at the 3D cursor. If your 3D cursor is somewhere else like that, you can reset it back to there, back to the world origin by doing Shift S, cursor to world origin. And that puts it right back in the middle again. So we use that reference point. So let's switch the transform origin to the transform point to 3D cursor. With that selected, I'm going to do Shift D, right click to leave it there. And we can just rotate it 180 degrees on the Y axis. Maybe this one here, the green one. So let's do this. And then click on the green one there. Hold down Control. In the top left, I'm looking at 180. And then let go. So there we go. So you can see that's got a rotation, and so is that one. But we can literally bake that in now. So I'm going to hit Apply Rotation, and this one as well. And save our file. And this one has rotation as well. I'm not sure why. Oh, because we rotated 90 degrees before from the original cylinder. Let's apply that as well. Let's do Control A, Apply Rotation. The location, don't worry about that, obviously. It's fine to have them in different places, obviously. Let's put that back to medium point. And there you go. How cool. All right, so let's think about which part we can do next. So we've got this part which is shared with the top as well. And these elements there. So let's work on that part next. Why not? Let's isolate that. And see what we're working with. So you can pretty much guess that this is a cylinder. And then I've added some insets here to create the screw component. To do that, I'm going to borrow. I could borrow these edges here and duplicate them. So why don't we do that? And then we have the same number of vertices alongside the other component. So I'm going to tap into edit mode, turn off the subdiv modifier, and I'm going to select an edge here. So edge mode, alt click that one there. In fact, better still, let's select this face and that one. Yeah, these face loops here. Let's select those two there and do Shift D, duplicate them, right click to leave them where they began, then press P to separate them by selection and tab it back to object mode. There we have plate TB base 2.001. What did I call that in the other one? This is called cap top original. Let's call that cap top. Da-da-da. So at the moment, it's literally, there's no gap between this part and this part. So we're going to tab into edit mode. Face select is fine. Press A to select everything. We want to scale that in a little bit, something like that. But I'm not going to do it like this because you notice if I do that, it's also going to scale it vertically. So it becomes very thin. Undo that. We want to scale it on the X and the Y, but not the Z. So you could here switch to the scaling operator. And you notice these little squares. Yeah. So these ones would be, the blue one, for example, here is only going to affect these two axes. This green box here will only scale it according to these two axes. And of course, this one here will only scale it apart from the red on the Z and the Y. So we want to scale it along these two, oops, like this, but it's not going to scale it in the Z as you can see. So it can be a little bit fiddly. So hold down Shift and you get more control. I'm going to undo that again. you don't want to use these gizmos, and I rarely use them because I just use the shortcuts. The shortcut for that is S for scale, of course, but then if you want to restrict the Z axis, you can then press Shift Z. So we do S for scale, like that, Shift Z. You can see we have the same effect. Let's press Shift again to hold and get finer control. Let's scale it around, leave a bit of a gap, like that. If we tab out, you now can see we have a gap between these two components. Cool, right, let's get on. Let's select this top edge of that component there. Let's remind ourselves what our other object is doing. So it's basically going up. We've got the side part there. We've got to go across, then across and down. So we have the side part, as we said already here. So let's save our file, Control S, just in case. And I'm going to do extrude, and then scale, and bring that in so far. Then we can just move these up on the Z axis. Let's turn off X-ray. Now we have that. Is that too big? Yeah, make it a little bit smaller. Obviously, go to your reference material. When you look at this, you can kind of get an idea. Get an idea of how big that could be here. So just eyeball it, really. I don't have any specifications for this, obviously. So maybe that's like that or something like that. That looks cool. Now we want to take that edge again and E to extrude, S for scale, and bring that in. Give it a bit of a lip like that. And then E to extrude, Z to constrain it on the Z axis. Bring it down to about there. Like that. Yeah, that's about deep enough. And then we can put a grid fill there if we want to. But for now, I'm going to press E to extrude, S for scale, bring that in a bit. And now we can do the grid fill like that. Let's isolate that with the / or question mark key. We need to add this bevel. So what I'm going to do is in edit mode, let's alt click that one and delete it. Dissolve it, not delete it. Control delete is a controlled delete, that's the dissolve. Let's alt click that, shift alt click this one, and shift alt click that one as well, and this one here. And with all of those selected, Control B and bring that out. Scroll the mouse wheel to get 2 segments and bring that out, something like that. Make sure the shape is set to 1. So all it does is add edges either side of the ones we selected. If we go back now to subdivision, turn off the wireframe, there's our lovely shape. Nice and clean, works really well. And the shading looks really good. Cool, right, so with that done, switch back to this one. You can see we have these rivets here. And I put 4 in there. I think that's about right. Let's save our file. And let's go to top view. Turn off our modifier. We may only need 1 subdivision actually, but leave it at 2 for now. Tab into edit mode. Turn off the modifier. And we can select some faces here and create an inset. Just repeat it around. Okay, we can work on a quarter of it basically. Start with these ones. But let's before we do that, let's add a couple of loop cuts. Maybe 3. Yeah, let's add 3. Okay, cool. Back to the top view. Let's select this face, that one, these ones here. Let's try that. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to just do the, I'm not going to delete these yet. I'm going to do an inset first. Like that. Then I'm going to delete those. Let's just try it and see if this works out. I'm not sure if it will, but let's try it. And we can select these with alt click and right click, loop tools, circle. Obviously it's too big, so let's scale that down. Press S for scale. before we do that, let's just make sure it looks flat there. Maybe we should turn flatten off. No, definitely leave that on. Let's just scale that in. Something like that. You can see the rotation is completely off. Let's eyeball this now. Don't click away or do anything else. Let's just change the angle here. You can see we can rotate that. I'm holding down shift as I do that for finer control. And get that looking about right. That looks pretty good. Let's go with that. Now we've got our hole. It's a little bit too big, sorry, too small. So I'm going to click that and scale it up a little bit. Maybe make it that big. Okay. And with that done, I'm going to press F to fill, I to insert. Again, helping it give it the boundary edge loops around there. Really helps with controlling the edge flow and the subdiv when we apply that. At this point, I think we should save our file again. Control S. And with that selected, go to face mode and E to extrude. Bring that down. Something like that. And then I'm going to press we could leave it separate actually. So another way you could do this, instead of doing I and then extrude, it's all one piece, right? It wouldn't technically be like that. So I'm going to do, inset there. No, let's undo that. Let's do extrude down, about there. I'm going to duplicate this face, right click to leave it there, and scale it. Like that. And now we can press E to extrude that, and hold down Control to invoke snapping, which we should put back to closest anyway. And that's now flush with that point there. Let's I to insert that, about there. That will do. And let's select these edge loops here, this edge loop there I should say. Control B and give that some supporting edge loops, like so. If we turn this back on now, we have, I feel like Blender's going to crash again. I feel it's struggling a little bit. We do have a slight crunch in there. I don't think I used this technique when I first built the original, but it seems to be a little bit, let's have a look. Yeah, it's a little bit crunchy there. So maybe we can tidy this up a little bit by selecting this and pressing GG, slide it along like this, give it a bit more breathing space in that area. Don't have to do that, but maybe it helps. Let's turn that back on. Yeah, I think that's helped quite a bit actually. Still not perfect, but I don't think we're going to notice that once it's textured. I think we can get away with that. All that's left to do is this part down here is actually being rounded out like this. So we just need to add an edge loop to this one. So Control B, add an edge loop like that. Turn that back on. In fact, I think we have a face there as well, which is part of this middle part. So if I move that out of the way, you can see we don't need that. So I'm going to right click and just leave it there and press delete face. Okay. That looks pretty good. Now, how did I do? We have a screw shape here. So you can do that any way that you like. As in, we're going to take these vertices here and reshape them into like a cross almost. Let's save our file. And let's make a copy now, Shift D, put it into backups, and save our file again. Let's try that. Let's select this face, press I to insert. Let's leave that there. And let's make this one GG, slide that out a little bit. We can always delete it if we don't need it. So now we've got this. We want to make this into like a shape that we can make it more interesting, or you can make another hole. It's up to you. Do whatever you feel looks good. let's try and figure this out. So I think what I did is if you take these points here, kind of, I mean, we've got an uneven kind of number there, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. Yeah, we've got 10 actually, but it doesn't really lend itself. What I was going to do is take that, and with that set to medium point, if I press scale, you get this. But it's not quite what we want, because these are pointed, these aren't. We want this one to be like that. So maybe that's not worth doing it. Just wondering whether I should just leave it as is. I'll turn that off. So you can see there we need this to be more detailed. Get this cross shape. So you could do that with the knife tool as well, actually. You could just completely like get rid of that, dissolve that edge. And then we can use the knife tool actually to do that. So we could go to the top view. I know it's not exactly facing us properly. Maybe if we press the 8 key or the 2 key, that gives it a bit of rotation whilst keeping it in orthographic view. Let's try. That's pretty close. Let's do it there. That's good enough. So press the K for knife tool, K key, and let's just make some cuts here. Let's try and do what we did before. So something like this. I don't think this is that good, to be honest. It's a bit of a mess. Yeah, it's a total mess. Yeah, you can see it's not at all aligned or anything. It's terrible. So we did that. That's pretty bad, right? And you could make a hole in that. Do that face there. Turn off subdiv. So we've got this horrible hole there. And we could, that's not bad, but it's not great. I could have done this way better, but for the sake of speed, I haven't. Now, if you wanted to move this around, you can't just move it because you're putting it up and down and left and right, and it's not going to be planar with this. It's not going to say flush. So what you can do is try switching this to normal. If we do move, I've got the anim player on again, haven't I? Yeah, you can see now we've got our axes set on normal. The normal of this face, which is perfect. Look, it goes right like that. So we can move that now like this. Maybe scale it up a little bit. And maybe we don't even need, I'm going to save again. Maybe we don't need this edge loop here. Let's dissolve that as well. Let me get that. That's pretty good. Maybe move these. Because we know this is on the normal, right? It's going to work. So we can move these like so. Something like that. We'll check if this looks good in a moment. Let's go with that for now. Okay, maybe something like that. Okay, that's good enough, I think. Yep. I mean, a bit of inaccuracy is more realistic, I guess. Let's save that. Let's go to edge mode. Select this edge loop. These edge loops here. Let's. What happens if you press F to fill? That works. E to extrude. Bring it down. Maybe so high. Doesn't really matter, really. Do what you feel is good. Of course, if we add the bevel modifier, it's going to go a little bit crazy because there's too many n-gons here, and again, it's a negative space within these faces, so it kind of goes in on itself. So we need to make some cuts here to help blender along. Before we do that, let's select these edges here and bevel them. Control B. Give it a small bevel. We could even go there, but let's leave it there for now. Apologies if you can hear background noise. People just seem to be a bit crazy around here. Let's select that. Let's go back to global. And we can now just start merging these, I think. I think that would work pretty much. Or cutting them, actually. Maybe we can slide that out a little bit so we can scale that up a touch. Something like that. Maybe this one. If we press GG, can we scale that in a bit? Yeah, we can. About halfway. That's cool. And save that. And let's press K for the knife tool. Let's start making some cuts. Like so. Bit messy, but it shouldn't matter. It's on a flat surface, so that should be fine. Let's carry on making some cuts there. Like that. That one is going in on itself. Let's make a cut there as well. And work your way around. This one we can probably do there. I think we're there. Yeah. Let's press enter. It looks messy, but go back to object mode. It's a little bit glitchy there. Not too sure why. It's all flat. It should be fine. So let's check our normals. Oh wow, right, okay. So yes, because we borrowed, originally we borrowed these faces here, didn't we? Up this row, these loops. And then we basically inverted them because we go back to this one. These actually looped around this way, but now we've looped them this way. We've basically turned it inside out. That's why it's red. So let's save that. Tab into edit mode, select all of the faces by pressing A and do recalculate normal. Again, something that I've used quite frequently, hence why it's in the toolkit. If you don't have the add-on, you can press Alt-N to bring up the normals menu and recalculate outside. And that will hopefully fix our problem, which it has. Let's turn off face orientation, turn this on, and that's pretty much almost there. That works well. It's messy, but because this is all flat, it doesn't make a difference really. Let's bring that into view. So yeah, it's all on a flat surface, so it's all good, even if it looks like this. We just need to make this tidier now, because it's got a large end-on in the middle, and this is making it very broken down there. Ideally, you want to bevel these as well, but I'm not going to do that in this video. So you can select these edges here and just bevel them to make it a bit more, tight around the corner like this. But as I say, I won't do that in this video. Feel free to play around with that. Let's just select this big face here and do an inset. Like that. And let's grab the knife tool. So K, let's just cut these. And it looks pretty bad. Enter. And add a loop cut down here, and we're done. Add the loop cut there. Maybe we don't need this because we can actually just select this edge loop here in the corner and add a mean crease of 1. So let me delete this and see what that looks like. There we go. So that works. Let's leave it like that. I think that looks pretty cool. And isolate it. Top view. Turn off the modifier. And enter mode, edit mode. And the problem we have, I've already put a grid fill there. We want this to repeat 4 times. That's going to be once here, obviously. And then over here, over there, and over here. So if we know which faces we can delete, we can just copy this part, well, all of these faces here, and just duplicate them and put them over there. So I'll undo, oops. Let me delete this, actually. Delete all of that. Oops. I keep right clicking, but that's not how you cancel that. So we want all of these faces here, all of these to be added over here. So we've got 3 rows here, 1, 2 and 3. So if we go to here to 3 o'clock position, we know we can select all of these faces there and delete those. And we can do the same up here. So press C for the brush select. Select these, right click, move over here, press C. There we go. With that done, we can do delete faces. Now we just simply have to select all of these, but don't do it like this because you probably haven't selected everything. You can see we've got some unselected in there because we're in solid mode. Make sure you turn X-ray on. If not, go to wireframe mode. Press C. Make our brush a little bit bigger. And now we can select these like that. And we should have everything now. So I'm going to Shift D to duplicate that. R for rotate. No. Undo. Let's make our selection again because I just realized something. X-ray, select all of these. Okay. We need to make sure we're doing it around the pivot point, not around the 3D cursor. Yeah, not the medium point because we're in edit mode. So with that selected, if we press rotate, you can see it goes around that point. So Shift D, R, Z, 90, enter. So that was Shift D, R for rotate, 90 degrees, or Z, 90 degrees, enter. That short macro, we can now repeat Shift R twice. We've copied these over and filled the hole, but like before, we still have these separate overlapping vertices. So select everything and let's do merge by distance, or you can press M by distance, and it removed 42. I don't know if that's too many. Let's just make sure we haven't merged anything in here that we shouldn't have. I don't think we did. It's hard to tell sometimes, but if you get different angles, have a look around. Maybe turn off the overlays. I think that looks okay. Now it's fixed those little glitches we had earlier. Let's check our face orientation. Great, looks good. Let's bring back our model. And let's turn on subdivision. Oh, I feel like it's going to crash there. Let's have one level only. I think that still works well. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, one level seems to be pretty good. In fact, this one's got 2, hasn't it? Maybe that can do with the 1 as well. So try. Turn off wireframe. Maybe, I'm not so sure. 2, I feel looks way better. This one, I think we can get away with 1 level of subdivision. Cool. Yeah, that looks pretty consistent from there to there, ish. Yeah, let's go with that. Back to optimal. And optimal for that one. Cool, now we've got that part there. Don't forget, we need to put that here as well. So we may as well copy the cap top. I'm going to rotate it around the 3D cursor. Press 1 on the numpad to go to front view. I'm going to Shift D, right click to leave it there, then R180, enter. Now we have it down the bottom as well. Right, I think we'll leave it there for this video, and please feel free to join me in the next one where we continue to make the top part here. I'm sure you can figure that out quite easily by yourself. And then, like I said, go and check out my how to make cutouts like a pro. This will help you and show you how to make these any shape you like with holes in them, things like that. Yeah, and after that we'll go ahead and model this part here. These parts very simple, as you can see. This one's a little bit more complex, but not that bad really, it just looks worse than it is. And again, these are quite simple. Then we have this part here, and yeah, that'll be it. So thanks for watching. I shall catch you in the next one. Bye for now.